Welcome to District Talk. I'm your host, Chad McLaughlin with District Home Loans. And this week, we have Ruben the Realtor. Ruben, thanks for coming by.
Chad, thank you for having me back.
Yeah, and Ruben, you have 5 years in the real estate industry.
Yes.
And of course, you're with our sister company, District Pro Realty. Which is exciting.
5 years, 1 year with District Pro.
1 year with us, yeah.
And it's been my best year, so I'm happy to be here.
I'm excited to hear that it's been your best year, and definitely appreciate you, especially with how busy you are, coming by and chatting with us today. I thought today our topic, which I wanted to chat about, would be basically like the pitfalls of buying a home simultaneously while trying to sell your own home.
Yeah.
Right? So things to avoid, essentially. And I wanted to get your opinion on that, and so we could share with our listeners.
For sure. Yeah. It's a very good topic. And it's something that it has a lot more moving parts than most people would think.
Yeah.
Just buying one house is enough workload, but having to buy at the same time as you're selling your current house just has so many more moving parts and complexities. And like you said, there are certain pitfalls. So when we say pitfalls, I think of like a hole that you're going to fall into, right?
Right.
How do we avoid those?
Right. Yeah. I mean, and you said too, just the stress of buying a house. I mean, these folks have already been through the home buying process. So they know already that it's a stressful process.
Yeah.
Whether it was their first home, their second home, or they've downsized already. They've been through the process before, and they know essentially that buying a house already is stressful, but now on top of that, they have to sell their home.
Right.
Yeah. So what would be one of the things, right off the top of your head, what would be one of the first things that you think of would be a pitfall that they should not fall into? Good
question. So off the top of my head, the very first thing that comes to mind is timeline.
Okay.
So with purchasing a home, there is a timeline that you want to be moving in. And oftentimes people have a lease that's ending. And so they want to make sure our lease isn't ending before we move into our new home, right?
Right.
So with having your own home that you own, selling it and then moving into your new one, you want to make sure that the timelines of you having to close on your new home and purchase the new one and move in, those coincide. So it all it flows freely.
Yeah. So time frames as far as like selling the house, moving into the new home. Is there anything that you would say, like, how would you, as a realtor, help them with aligning that particular goal?
Yeah, very good question. So the first thing, if I were to sit down with the client, the first thing that we would go over is, when do you want to move into your new house? And oftentimes it's for a reason. So whether it's a new job that someone's starting up or a new school that the kids have to go to. Once we know when you want to move in, then we can work on, okay, how do we get your home sold, and how can we make a projection so that we can close or settle on your certain home and then get you into the new one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So timeline, of course, is important. And of course, they want to avoid paying 2 different mortgages. They want to avoid like doing all that kind of stuff.
Right.
So how would they do that? Like, I mean, I know being the finance guy, but what would be your suggestion?
Yeah. Well, one suggestion would be to get something like a bridge loan, right?
Okay.
With if you're someone who's in a situation where you don't have the means or the funds to carry your current mortgage and to also simultaneously carry the second mortgage for the new house. One option would be a bridge loan. Do you want to explain bridge loans? Because I think that might be helpful for our audience.
Bridge loans are something that it's an opportunity for folks to be able to purchase a new house and then sell their current home within a certain time frame, right? Without making a payment. And then so that time frame though could be 6 months, it could be a year, but then of course they have to deal with the interest that is involved. So bridge loans are great for those types of situations. Another way we could look at it is we could also get them into the new house with doing a standard loan. Now, granted, they may end up having another mortgage, right?
Yeah.
So while they're paying their current mortgage, but what happens is with this particular type of program, which we call a recast, what they can do is they can sink, maybe like as little funds as possible. Let's say 5%, right, of the new home, into the new mortgage, and then once they've sold the current house, they can recast that loan and essentially have new terms for the home for the loan that they had recasted to.
Okay.
So recasting is an option. So they could totally just put with the funds that they have available now, because let's say they have like $200,000 in equity, right? They could totally take that $200,000 in equity after they sold the house, put it into the new loan, recast that loan. It's basically like doing a refinance without having to pay for refinancing.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
It does make sense.
It's a one-time option that we offer, at least as District Home Loans. But a lot of lenders offer it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. So I actually didn't know about recasting until I came here on this podcast. Okay. That's amazing, man. Thank you.
So there you go. So that's definitely something that we can certainly look into as far as an option for our folks that are looking to both buy and sell at the same time.
For sure. Sure. I love that on this podcast we can talk about financial side of things. Yeah. And then we can talk about the actual movement and logistics.
Right.
Because oftentimes what happens in my situation is I have a client that doesn't have the funds to do something like maybe a bridge loan or that's still an option for them.
Right.
They have equity in the house. Yeah. And so what they often have to do is use that equity for the down payment on the new place. Right.
So that's something that we can definitely look into. And what a lot of folks don't realize, which you just brought up, the bridge loan they're expensive.
Right.
They're not cheap. Mm-hmm. So if recasting is an option that they can do, if they can take out funds from their equity, if they have a gift from a family member that they can maybe pay back, we don't want to know that. but there are options that we can look into that might be better than the bridge loan
for sure
option.
For sure.
But that would be something that we would talk with the clients about, get a good understanding of their financial goals, of their financial situation, and do what's best for their situation.
Definitely.
But okay, so timeline is important. Obviously, the financial part is important, and we also want to make sure. I mean, you didn't bring this up, but I'm going to say it. We want to make sure that they're qualified to purchase a new house.
Yeah,
right.
That's number one, and I'm glad you mentioned it. Right, because that's the first thing that I would send someone is, hey, let's figure out that if you can actually qualify, and if you can't with your current in your current situation, what are the options that we can look into? We can look into the finance options that you mentioned, the recast, the bridge loan, or we can look into, okay, how much equity do we have in the house? Can we sell it, use that equity to put a down payment on your new place? Yeah, which is what most of my folks do. Yeah. Now with that comes a certain timeline that we have to follow. And when I'm in this scenario, when I'm talking about the timeline, I'm talking about contingencies. Okay. Because the last thing you want to do is get your house on the market and be under contract on your new place, and then something happens in your transaction and you can no longer sell your house. Sure. What happens to that second house that you've told a seller, hey, I'm willing to buy your house? Maybe you have a $5,000 earnest money deposit locking it in. Mm-hmm. So you want contingencies in place that reduces your risk of a scenario like that, and where you're not going to lose your earnest money deposit because now you can't close. Yeah. Right.
And just for let's dumb this down even further.
For sure.
Earnest money deposit, because that's one of the biggest questions as a lender that I get. Yeah. Is what's this earnest money deposit? Is it part of my? Is it something that is part of my purchase? Is it on top of my purchase? What's the earnest money deposit?
Very good question. And I do get asked that a lot.
Okay.
When you put an offer on a home, you also, in order to secure the home, have to put an earnest money deposit. And we call it like a good faith deposit that says, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I'm serious about buying your home. To tell you I'm serious, I'm willing to put $5,000, $10,000. There's no limit. There's no max or minimum that you can put. I'm willing to put that into an escrow account with the title company throughout the transaction. And if for any reason that we do not abide by our contract, you get to keep those funds. Now, it's...
The seller gets to keep them.
Correct. The seller would get to keep them.
Right.
So on our end as real estate agents, we're making sure that we're keeping up to date with our contingencies, our terms, and our timeframes. At the end of the transaction, if all goes well, which it usually does, it should, that earnest money deposit is like money in advance for your down payment. Right. So they already have, let's say, $5,000 of your down payment. Now you just left to you to send the difference and the rest of the funds.
Right. Okay. Mm-hmm. Great. Okay. So the risk then is if they don't have adequate contingencies, is they could lose their deposit.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's something that I talk about with my clients as soon as they list their house on the market. Once we get an offer and we're out shopping for the new place, because that's typically how it goes. You want an offer on your place before shopping on a new one, because we want to make sure that we're going to close and the funds will be available to buy the new one.
Yeah.
But with those offers that we present to sellers, we always present it with the contingency based on us selling the house that we currently own.
Okay.
Now, when we're talking about pitfalls, one thing that comes up often when you put a contract on a new place with a contingency like that is, oh, well, it's a risk for us as sellers to accept your offer. What if you don't sell your house? Right? Where do we stand?
What happens?
Yeah.
Right.
So what I always advise my clients to do is to make your offer very attractive, very appealing. Ways to do that is by putting up a large earnest money deposit. You can do things like take the home as is.
Okay.
You can also offer a higher purchase price. So that way it offsets that risk, so to speak,
sure,
of the sellers accepting the offer with it being contingent on the sale of your original property.
Yeah. And I think we're in a market right now where they almost have to do that.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, we're not in a market where they can just say, oh, this is going to be contingent based on me selling my house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You bring up a very good point. And the reason being is because if you're in a competitive offer situation and you have two buyers, and one has this contingency, this stipulation, and another does not, well, the other one that doesn't, it's more, there's more reassurance there that it's going to get to the settlement table.
Yeah. Yeah. Would you ever recommend, and this is sort of off the cuff, but would you recommend, let's say they get the offer on their home. We're selling our house, right? Mm-hmm. They get the offer on the house. And let's just wait. Let's just hang tight. Let's make sure we settle on the home, and we'll do like a 2-month rent back.
Yeah.
Would that be an option? Would that be something that they would be? Would that be I don't know. Like, because you're the realtor, obviously. I don't know.
No,
but like, what I mean, would that be a risk waiting because they do only have 2 months to find a house, and like, what would be the scenario?
Yeah, there is some risk involved there, because if we don't find a home, where does that leave us? We only have until such day. Yeah, well, you can be homeless.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
But I love that option.
Okay.
I advise that often.
Okay.
I advise that option often.
Okay.
Tongue twister. Reason being is because now when we go out, we already have the funds. Our home is sold, but you're still living in the house.
Yeah.
You're paying rent to the new owners that you've sold it to. You continue living in it. You're paying rent to them. In most cases, it's covering their PITI, as we say, principal, mortgage payments, taxes, and interest that the new sellers will be paying on the property. You cover that for them as rent.
Right.
But I mean, the great thing about that is the home is sold. You don't have to use that contingency, so there's no added risk.
Yeah, and then that way you can just be like, okay, let's just get you into this house.
And the funds are cleared.
Yeah.
Funds are already in your bank.
Funds are cleared.
Yeah.
If you have a great lender, they can get you settled in probably 2 weeks,
Right.
maybe 3.
Yeah. Wink, wink, nudge,
Wink,
nudge.
So, all right. So, okay. So timeline is important. Financial stability is important.
Yeah.
Obviously, we want to make sure we have the right contingencies in place based on whatever their situation may be. Any other pitfalls that come to mind that you think that we should consider?
Yeah. A common pitfall that people will often overlook when it comes time to sell your home.
Okay.
You want to make sure that transaction will go through.
Okay.
That it will go through and that you're going to get a quick and successful settlement.
Yeah.
And one way to ensure that outcome or make it more probable is to make your home very marketable to a wide audience of buyers. And the way to do that is by first making sure that it's cosmetically appealing. People, when they're walking through the home, they actually like the place. They can envision themselves living in it.
Yeah.
It's clean. They've seen the photos on online, and they maybe that entice them to set an appointment. So you always want to use professional photographers. If you've done any landscaping, you want to use professional landscapers. So you don't want to have a botched job when it comes time to sell your home, because when buyers move through the property, they'll see, oh, they cut corners here. Maybe I don't want to buy it.
Yeah.
Another very important thing is to make sure that the large ticket items are taken care of.
Okay.
When we say large ticket items, we mean your roof, your electricity, your plumbing, your structural, making sure all those are sound. So when the home inspection comes back, none of those things come up that could, if there's a structural issue, as you know, most buyers will walk away. They're not going to want to deal with a home like that.
Yeah.
And then it messes up your timeline and all those other moving parts that you have to consider.
Yeah. So, and to your point, you don't want to give the buyers an out, right? Because the buyers are also going through a very emotional process, and they're in that stage of, what do we just do? What did we just sign a contract? And basically, when it comes to the inspection, that's their out, right?
Right.
So, so you don't want to give them any opportunity to say, "Oh, we're gonna be done with this deal," because of the 20-year-old HVAC unit or the roofing system or whatever it may be, right? So, home maintenance is obviously important for the sale of the house. And to be able to purchase a new house.
Definitely.
Right. So, and like you said, you pointed out a couple different things: the roof, the landscaping, the interior. Anything in particular in mind that sticks out to you? That's like kind of like one of those things that like people go right to.
Yeah. So the major components of your home that I've seen be the make or break in a lot of real estate transactions. There are 5. The roof, the heating and air system, the plumbing, the electricity, and the structure. These are the most expensive components to have to get repairs on in a home. So if any of these components are past their life expectancy or they're faulty, it can become a very costly issue. And most buyers may not want to take a house that has these issues. So address it ahead of time.
Yeah.
That way it doesn't come as a surprise to you when you have your home on the market. You've gone through the process of getting the photos done, getting it prepared. Turns out that your roof was leaking the whole time and you had no clue.
Yeah.
So address that ahead of time.
Yeah.
That's where I would start with the large ticket items. Besides from that, it's making sure the house looks pretty.
Yeah.
So
and one thing too that I think is important, and this is just from my experience, and especially my experience being on the outside. So I don't have the experience of a realtor like you, but what I do see a lot are folks that I meet, and they want to sell their house. and they're like, oh, but we have so much stuff that we have to do to our house. We've got to paint, and we've got to whatever, they've got to do all this stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Something in the garage, something here, something there. But what I often tell these folks is like, reach out to a realtor, because you might be spending your time and money on something that may not necessarily be something that's going to matter, right? Like you may just need to declutter your house,
Right.
and that's it.
Yeah.
You may just need to focus on painting or getting rid of like the random paintings in the house. Just like there may be things that you need to do that may not be as costly that you think you need to take care of.
For sure.
Does that make sense?
It absolutely does. And something that I always leave my seller clients with is to remember 3 things. And it's to declutter your home, so get things packed up.
Yeah, we all know to declutter. We got to declutter. We got to clean.
Well, it really opens up the space.
Yeah.
And it makes it doesn't make, believe it or not, when you have a room that's just full of a bunch of stuff, it can make you feel a little anxious.
Right.
And it can be a turnoff, almost a subconscious turnoff to a lot of these buyers.
Yeah.
But apart from that is to depersonalize. We want to appeal to
I was going to ask you that.
Yeah.
So depersonalizing, meaning like they really do. So the whole like get rid of like family pictures, get rid of like that's a thing.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, and not only family pictures, but it might be a case where you love your bright pink walls, for instance.
Well, right.
And another buyer may not.
Yeah.
So what we want to do is go with neutral colors.
Okay.
So because a neutral color is going to appeal to a wider audience, a wider range of people.
Yeah.
And that's what we want. The more people we can get coming through your home, the more exposure we get during the open house, the more likely we're going to get a quick offer and get a quick sale.
Okay.
Yeah.
I had a client, funny story, really quick, that she had a painting.
Yeah.
She had a painting. So she was my client. I was working with her on the buyer side. So she was buying a house, and I happened to know the realtor that was selling her home.
Oh,
okay. So and her home was just not selling. It wasn't selling.
okay.
And so I was talking to the realtor, I was like, why isn't this house selling? Well, a lot of it was because of the personalization, right? Mm-hmm. She had all these paintings. She was a painter, and she had done a self-portrait of herself, nude.
Wow.
And she had hung it above her fireplace.
Depending on how she looked nude, might attract more buyers.
Nope. Oh gosh. She was like, and I cannot get her. She's like, I just cannot get her to take down this stuff. Yeah. She's like, I want her to take down all of her wall paintings, her nude portraits, things of that nature, and she just would not. And she was also unrealistic, as she was unrealistic with pricing and that kind of stuff too. So there was more to it than just the paintings. Yeah. But I just thought it was kind of funny because that was one of my first times that I had come across an actual like personalization type incidents where folks just they could not picture themselves in a home because of what this client actually had in her house.
For sure.
Yeah. So I thought that was kind of funny.
Yeah, that is funny. Thanks for sharing that story. That's hilarious. But depersonalize, declutter, as we said. And lastly is to deep clean your home.
Okay.
Having a filthy home is a big turnoff to buyers. They think that it's not a well-kept home. It hasn't been taken care of. And in the mind of the buyers, the smallest thing to them could be huge.
Yeah. How about animals?
Animal smells is something you want to get rid of. Any sort of odors. If you have carpets, make sure to get them cleaned.
Okay.
They even sell systems that Sunbelt, like Sunbelt. They rent out commercial tools.
Okay.
and they sell this system called an ozone machine.
Okay.
And it eliminates odors.
Oh, wow.
So you hook that up. I think it costs like $100, $200 to rent it for a day. Hook that up in a home. I believe it's 1,000 square feet per system. So if you have 2 levels, you might need 2.
Okay.
And you run that for about 24 hours, and it
helps with the
it helps with the odor.
Yeah. I can imagine that'd be pretty.
Yeah. Apart from the odors, some people are allergic to cats and dogs, and the first thing that might happen to them when they walk through your home, their eyes might be itching and they're sneezing constantly, and they just want to get out of there.
Yeah.
So that can be a big turnoff as well.
Okay. All right. So animals, decluttering, home maintenance, just home maintenance in general is basically what you're saying is important.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else as far as the sale of the house goes that we want to make sure that we're avoiding?
Yeah. The sale of the house is probably the most important piece, because that's where the money is in most people's cases. That's where their equity lies. Yeah. So getting your home properly prepped for sale using all the techniques that we just discussed. And once you can get a contract locked down, then you can go out and actually shop for your home. And as far as the timeline and the contingencies, that's all case by case. But all that we've covered today is mostly going to be techniques. Okay. There might be some things that we cover that we may not need to use, but it's nice to know that it's an option for you if the situation does arise. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So as far as what you brought up earlier, the marketing of the house, you said about getting professional pictures taken.
Yes.
So anything there as far as like marketing goes? I mean, obviously, everything kind of falls in line with marketing as far as what we previously talked about, the maintenance, the decluttering, professional pictures being taken, things of that nature. But as far as like the marketing aspect of it, what do you as a realtor, let's say you versus another realtor, what would be the difference, let's say, of good marketing versus poor marketing?
Yeah.
You listing my home versus Joe Schmo listing my home.
For sure. So most real estate agents are going to get you professional photos.
Okay.
What I look at is the aesthetic of certain rooms in certain areas. Some people's house might be funky, right?
Okay.
You ever walked in a house and you're like, this is kind of funky. Yeah. This room, what can we use it for?
The house I grew up in was kind of funky. Yeah. It was a little Cape Cod. We had a little couple of nooks and things of that nature that we had that were like awkward, but
they're awkward. But if you can find a way to present an option for those nooks, then it becomes cozy, right? So that's where my staging team comes in handy to find what that can turn into, so that when people are walking through the home, they're like, oh, this is great. I love it. Yeah. I love the quirkiness. I love what they did with this useless space. So that you can do staging. You can do physical staging like actual furniture, or today they have virtual staging also. And it's not very expensive these days. You can get it done with AI for like $1. It's very inexpensive.
Really?
Yeah.
So is that like where you see a picture with furniture?
Yeah.
But then when you actually go see the house is empty.
Correct. Yeah. It's so they've modified the photo to like put in furniture as if it was there.
Sure.
But that
makes sense.
It helps tremendously.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I came from new home construction, and we obviously have models.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest things that folks would have a hard time with would be the secondary bedrooms, because secondary bedrooms are typically, 10 by 12.
Right.
They're smaller.
Yeah. And
when you see these rooms without any furniture, and I remember walking like inventory homes, or what we call specs.
Yeah.
And you just can't picture any furniture in these secondary bedrooms because they look small. Mm-hmm. But then when you walk into a model home has a full bed, it has a dresser, it has has everything that you would typically think a bedroom would need, right? As a bedroom. So it was always important for us as new home construction company to make sure to show off what you can do
Definitely
with that particular house. So I understand, the idea behind the AI generated pictures, because if you don't have those pictures, it's almost like, well, what do I do with this space?
Yeah.
I can't picture my own furniture. I can't picture any furniture being in here because of the space, because of the size, or how it's laid out, or what have you.
Definitely. Yeah, it helps tremendously. Apart from staging and getting photographs, open houses are really really big. And as I stated earlier, the key with listings is to get maximum exposure. The more eyes on your property online and the more feet through your door, the more likely it is that you'll get things like multiple offers, buyers waiving contingencies, and get to the settlement table quickly, so that you can go on and buy your new place.
Yeah.
But apart from those things, what we like to do is canvass the neighborhood, put out or deliver flyers by hand.
Okay.
Around the block.
Yeah.
So that your neighbors can come through.
Yeah.
And and people.
That's an excellent marketing strategy.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Especially when you're in a neighborhood of whether it's tens or hundreds of homes, there's probably a good chance that a neighbor knows somebody.
For sure.
And that's one of the best leads that I think that you could probably get would be from a neighbor that may know somebody that wants to buy. And of course, the best neighbors are your friends and family, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So, okay.
And most neighbors, to your point, they want someone who's going to take care of the front of your house, because no one wants that neighbor that's just super messy and never trims their lawn.
Right. Yeah, I think that's a great, as far as marketing goes, canvassing the neighborhood is definitely a great option. And to that respect, everything I think so far that we've talked about is a great start to selling your home while trying to purchase a new home, right? So we talked about the timeline and making sure we have the right timeline in place, whether it may be you sell your house and we have the right financing available to you, or you sell your home and you decide to rent back the house, right? So that's an option. From there, then we also just need to make sure that you're financially able to purchase a new home, right? If you're moving up, we want to make sure that you're able to move up, right? So the financial portion of it is obviously important as well. You had talked about the contingency aspect of it, and making sure we have the right contingencies in place, and then the home maintenance and making sure that the house looks good which leads into marketing, right?
Yeah.
We want to make sure that the home is marketable.
For sure.
It's able to sell. And then on top of that, then we have the right marketing in place. And that's, of course, making sure we have a great realtor, like Ruben the realtor.
Appreciate you, brother.
To be able to sell the house for you.
For sure. Yeah. I really appreciate you having me on, Chad.
Yeah. I appreciate you coming by today.
Yeah,
and I think, we could probably keep going.
Yeah.
As far as these pitfalls go, we'll have to have you back and chat some more. I think it'd be great.
Definitely, man. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah. So, anything else that you want to add?
No.
How about where can we find you, Ruben, the realtor?
You can find me on Instagram.
Okay.
I give a lot of videos with tips.
Yeah, you do.
And tricks for things from maintaining your house to how to save for down payment. My Instagram is Ruben the Realtor, no spaces, with an extra R at the end.
With
so
an
Ruben
extra
the
R.
Realtor.
Yeah.
You can email me at ruben@rubenrealtor.com.
Okay.
Or you can just call me a number or call or text. My number is in my email signature, 202-285-3657. You can find it in my email signature.
All right. Awesome. Well, hey, I appreciate you coming by today and taking the time to, again, out of your busy schedule, because I know you've been busy. So
Thank the Lord.
Which is, it's very exciting. I'm very happy for you.
Likewise,
so,
man.
Very
Thank you.
happy. So, and to our folks listening, we appreciate you taking the time to listen to our podcast, and to whether it's you're listening or watching us. And of course, we'll see you in the next episode.